Yo, what up guys, Kenny here. Welcome to Fobology. This episode is going to be a look at a scrimmage we had against Tactical Trigonometry on 10/24 on Kohat AAS V2. Much like last time we played TT, we got whooped on pretty good the first round, but we're able to turn around the second match and make a good match out of it, losing by about 120 tickets. Now what I want to focus on this episode is actually the first round where we lose pretty severely by 300 plus tickets, because there's some very obvious mistakes that we make that I think we can improve on. And I also want to point out some of the things I think TT did really good. Alright, so first up is the early game firebase setup. Tactical Trigonometry did a much better job at setting up their mortar and tow fobs right out the rip, and they blew up a full helicopter before it touches ground. Now the helos are delayed 6 minutes, which means they're leaving base 3 minutes behind the Logis, so they kind of get to the mid-caps right around the same time as a Logi would anyway. But that gave them time to build a very critical tow, as you see right here. And it was set up, loaded, ready to go by the time our helos were touching down, and they wipe an entire squad in that helicopter. Then, as I said, they also build a couple mortar fobs, and those guys get to work immediately. So then this leads into one of our first and probably our biggest mistake, and I think it's something that we all know. It's just something we get maybe lazy about, playing in public matches or whatever, where we get away with it. But putting your habs outside when you have the opportunity to put it inside in a building is a big fucking mistake. Okay, so I'm going to roll through some examples here, some bad hab placements where they're outside when they don't need to be, and then some good examples. And so here we go, first example here, this is our first hab. Niner places down on the mid cap. I flew him out here, he places his radio inside. That hab he placed right outside that building fits perfectly inside that building, and sure as shit, a couple minutes after placing it, it starts to get mortared down because it's wide open. They knew where it was, they spot it, they mark it, they mortar it down. Rewinding just a little bit, you can see here on Malakabad, we show up at the same time in the helicopter as they do in Alaji. Now this is interesting because it's a close fair fight. We have fobs right next to each other and we're having a good fight and a good exchange. And they even fuck up and place a bad hab that they have to dig down, fall back, drop more supplies, and then place it again. And this mistake they made may have given us enough time to swing the fight the other direction on this cap, but because our hab was in the open and they knew where it was and they were mortaring it, we were no longer able to spawn in on the cap and we got wiped. Next up is this Fob Purdy Squad 9 builds north of Ambar. Now Purdy's thinking that this is just going to be a backup fob in the event that they rush Ambar so that we have a way to get in there and get the cap. They do rush Ambar. They do blow up our helicopter that was planned on flying straight there with their tow that I showed earlier. And now she's in a tough spot where she's trying to flank around and build another fob from the south side of Ambar to start working in from there as well. Now, what she did is she placed her radio and walked the hab up, which is a very typical strategy to save walking distance. In this case, she saves maybe 100 meters, probably a little less, and in doing so, it gets put outside. Again, she didn't think this was going to end up being the primary fob for Ambar, but it does, and it is outside, and they spot it with their helicopter, they mark it, it gets mortared, it gets completely deleted within maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Here's a couple quick examples from the second match where TT placed their habs inside in good spots where it was impossible to spot from the air from either helicopter or UAV, and impossible to hit with mortars, airstrike, or arty. Now, if placing habs inside buildings makes you nervous because you're worried about placing a bad hab where people can spawn in but they can't get out of the doorway, that does happen. You saw the example earlier where TT had an experienced SL place a hab that was bad. He had to dig it down. He realized it right away, had to dig it down, go drop more supply and do it again. Same thing happens to me sometimes. I fuck it up and I have to replace it. I get pissed off, but doing it more and more, you get better at it. You get used to certain buildings where you can put these habs on different maps and in certain buildings. It's just something, if you're not used to doing, you need to start doing more often so you get better at it. Now looking back at the first match in the early game on Upper Ambar, TT pushes up with their Tigers taking control of the actual cap, but their fob is exposed in the river on the south side, as you see here. Now we do identify this fob, but we take a little bit longer to identify their fob than they do to identify ours, because their helicopters are doing a very good job flying around doing recon while our helicopters got blown up by the tow. So at this point, surely somebody is thinking, well, why didn't you guys do the same thing and build your tow and mortar fobs? What happened to your fire bases? Well, we did have plans to do so, but those plans really just didn't pan out, and here's why. One of the fire bases we had planned was to be built on Jazura Hill by Purdy's squad with her Logi, but I made a complete fuck up when I made this initial rollout plan because I didn't realize that the helicopters were delayed. So just leading up to the match, we had decided to flip-flop Purdy and unconventional squads tasks. So we had unconventional flying out to Jazura Hill in the helicopter because it was delayed a little bit, and we were going to have Purdy go straight for Upper Ambar. But as you saw earlier, the helicopter got blown up by the tow immediately. So that this failed for a couple of reasons. A, I screwed up and didn't understand the helo delays, so the timing of shit was just off and wrong. That's just an oversight and a mistake that we need to not make in the future. Also, they made a very good play with this tow. The tow they built over here outside of their main so that they could build it very quickly. They had fantastic sight lines on these caps. Was really a good play, and that obviously panned out very well for them. They also made a very good rush into Ambar. They had Tiger and a scout car in Ambar very quickly, and they were harassing the shit out of us. This is a very difficult back cap for us to get. Then, as I just showed, they also built that hab in the river just below. So that's where this fire base failed. The other fire base we had planned to build were a couple. We actually had planned for Mortem to build a couple fire bases, mortars and tows, on the north side here on this fob creation north of Malakabad, and then build another tow if he was able to do so, kind of near Radio Tower on the northeast of Malak. But as soon as Mortem rolls into this first fob creation, right at the beginning of the match, enemy Tiger rolls in, wipes his squad, kills his radio, blows up his Logi. That hab is never even spawnable, so he's essentially wiped, completely ineffective. This fob never happens right from the get-go. And I'm going to go over some of the details and clips of this and just talk about where I think this could have gone better. So to start with, we're taking too long to get where we're going. You can see in this clip that I'm slowing down here, Squad 6 Agent's Logi is like 700 or 800 meters ahead of Mortem Squad 10's Logi. So somehow, someway, Agent has a faster route than Mortem has, and these are things that we can iron out and practice and get better at so that we all know the fastest routes to get where we're going. Now, part of this is me getting my pre-planning information out to people quicker so they have more time to look at this stuff and work on it. And part of it's just practicing getting better, knowing the maps, knowing where you can go, know the timings of how long it takes you to get where you're going, and being fast and as efficient as possible. I estimated just timing when I think Agent would have been able to place this radio, that Mortem places this radio about a minute late. His whole squad shows up to this area about a minute late, which is really significant in the context of a scrimmage against a really good team. Okay, so game clock wise, had Mortem showed up a minute earlier, the hab would be finishing getting shoveled up right now. He would have just placed his tow probably, and it's being shoveled up while he's got eyes and ears looking west, which sure as shit, there's a Tiger with 6 guys in it driving in from the west. So another couple notes about this situation is that the evidence that we were late to the area was right in front of us because Agent's Logi was a minute ahead of us. So we knew we were late, and in the event that you're late, what I typically do is I hop out early and set a rally because I know there's possible enemies in the area because I'm that late. So like I would have stopped out somewhere here a few 100 meters ahead of the destination, hopped out, set a rally. When I do this, I tell everybody in my squad, stay in the Logi. I hop up myself, set a rally, and hop back in and get moving because you don't need anybody else to hop out of the Logi. The passengers in the Logi count as your one man to set a rally. So it's just faster to do that, have everybody stay in, so you don't play musical chairs when you hop back in the Logi to get in the driver's seat. The other thing that I think was a bit weak was the security that was set up upon dismount. So what happens is when Mortem turns down this little gully here, is his lat hops out and starts getting ready for, I guess, a helicopter to come in or something. The problem is, you already drove down this road, so there's obviously no wheels coming in from the northeast. It's the beginning of the match, so the only threat northeast would have been a helicopter coming in, flanking around like this, but you would have seen and heard that, from 1,000 meters away. That's not something that's going to sneak up on you like that. Also, Agent had already driven down this road, so there's obviously nothing coming in on the north road because it would have blown up Agent's Logi, or Logi would have blown it up and communicated it or whatever. So being the beginning of the match, all of their shit's coming out of their main, so they're coming down these roads, right? And so your main threat at this point should be the west. So when you dismount, you should have said, so-and-so, you're going to shovel the hab. Everybody else, you need to set up your security looking eyes and ears to the west. Now, because we're so late to the area and because we have no eyes and ears looking west, the Tiger successfully drives all the way across the river straight up to our hab, dismounts 5 people, the gunner stays in and kills all of our guys, kills our fob, blows up our logi. This fob never finishes getting built. We never end up with our tow or mortar base. We never have a backup fob. This north area is completely wiped and is now in control of the enemy. So it's somewhere around this point that I call back Agent from doing his north flank and attack from the west onto Modside because I don't think he's going to get there in time, and because we're failing on all 3 fronts along the river. So he comes back. Nitzer finishes, Squad 7 finishes his back caps, and he's also falling back or pushing up to the north to start clearing that out. I was wrong. They do not blow up Mortem Squad 10's logi. They leave it. So Nitzer ends up using it to try to get back to Malak as well. But we're kind of too little too late. We fail on all 3 fronts right out the beginning of the match, and it's just such a heavy blow that it's just too much to recover from at this point. So we just quickly get pushed back to Nazrat, and the match is really pretty quick at a half hour. That's a very quick match. It's not a complete roll because we hold on to Nazrat, but we've lost so many tickets by losing the fight in all these main areas that the match just gets over with pretty quickly. Again, we had a pretty good match the second round with a much better back and forth on the mid caps, and the end ticket count was 120 that we lost by. But I felt like this match, where we lost by 360 tickets, had more obvious teachable moments. The mistakes, when I look back at them through the the eyes of the replay cam, where I can go anywhere and watch everyone do everything, it's just so obvious. Getting 2 of our habs on our 3rd and 4th flags mortared down damn near at the same time was absolutely brutal, right? And those habs could just be placed inside, and that is avoided. That's very simple. We can also practice the route that we're going to take and understand the timings of how long it takes to get where we're going, so we get there as quick as possible, giving our guys the best chance possible in those early fights. Alright, so that's all I got. Thank you to everyone that came out and played, especially you squad leads, and thank you for watching the video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.